Leo Thorne wasn't scared of much. Back in New York, he handled billion-dollar deals before lunch. He navigated subway crowds like a pro. But right now, sitting on a splintery bench outside Hazel's hive, Willow Creek's tiny post office, pure panic squeezed his chest. The quiet wasn't peaceful. It was loud. The air felt thick as syrup. His $1,000 suit suddenly felt like a straitjacket. What is happening? Get it together. His hands shook as he fumbled for his phone. No signal, of course. Hey now, easy does it. A voice calm as a slow river cut through the noise in his head. Leo blinked up. Sunlight haloed, a woman holding baskets, overflowing with wildflowers. Purple, yellow, tiny white stars. She wore muddy boots, faded jeans, rolled at the cuffs, and a soft blue flannel shirt. Freckles dusted her nose. Her eyes, green as the hills behind her, held his steady. Not pitying, just present, steady. God, I need steady. Breathe, she said simply, setting the fragrant baskets down. The sweet herbal scent cut through the panic fog a little, in slow. Hold it now, slowly out. Like you're blowing out a stubborn birthday candle. She crouched nearby, not touching him, just being there. He tried. Air hitched painfully. Can't, he rasped. Sure you can. Smell the chamomile. She pointed to the tiny white flowers. Calms the nerves. Breathe with that. Leo obeyed, sucking in a ragged breath filled with the sweet scent. Another, slowly, the vice around his chest loosened. The roaring in his ears faded, replaced by distant birdsong and the low hum of insects. He slumped back, utterly drained. Better, she asked, a small, genuine smile touching her lips. Faint lines crinkled around her eyes. Yeah, thanks, sorry. Leo Thorne, he offered a hand, feeling ridiculous. Her grip was warm, strong, earth-stained, not like the cold, calculated handshakes back home. Mara Finch, she replied, then her smile flickered. Thorne, as in Thorne Capital. Here, about the Miller farm. Her green eyes sharpened. Guarded. Leo froze. She knows. His cover story, a stressed exec needing a quiet retreat, felt flimsy, just exploring. Beautiful spot. The lie tasted sour. Beautiful, she echoed, her voice noticeably cooler. She picked up her baskets. Welcome to Willow Creek, Leo Thorne. Try not to let the peace finish you off. She turned to go. Wait. The word burst out before he could stop it. Losing her calm presence felt like losing an anchor. Is there coffee? Actual coffee. A ghost of her earlier warmth returned. Hazel inside does calming tea. The grumpy badger down the lane does espresso. Barely. A hint of amusement touched her eyes. Don't expect latte art. He managed a weak smile. Espresso. Sounds like survival right now. Point me. She did. As she walked away, baskets swinging, Leo watched her go. Mara Finch, with her wildflowers and calm eyes and sudden, protective coolness. She knows who I am, what I'm really here for. The panic had receded, replaced by a different kind of disquiet, and a strange, unwelcome tug of curiosity. Who was this village girl who seemed so unimpressed by Leo Thorne? Leo's sleek rental SUV looked absurd on the narrow lanes. His designer clothes felt stiff and impractical. The coffee at the Grumpy Badger, it was, as promised, barely espresso, but it was hot and strong, served by a man named Bert, who eyed Leo with open suspicion over the counter. The Miller farmland was perfect. Rolling hills, a clear, sparkling creek, stunning views of the valley. Exactly what Thorne Capital needed for their planned luxury resort, Willow Creek Haven. Leo met old Mr. Miller, a stoic man who spoke little but listened intently. Leo spun his tale of a conservation-minded investor seeking a quiet retreat, careful to avoid specifics. Mr. Miller seemed cautious, but not unreceptive. Except Mara Finch, kept appearing. She ran the vibrant community garden project, he learned. He saw her laughing with kids planting seeds, patiently helping elderly Mrs. Henderson carry groceries, her hands deep in the rich earth, tending seedlings with a focus that was almost reverent. She moved through the village like she belonged to it, and it to her. He found himself watching her, drawn by her easy competence and the quiet joy she seemed to find in simple things. Things I haven't felt in years. When did I last notice? Sunlight through leaves. One afternoon, a sudden, violent thunderstorm rolled in while Leo was hiking near the farm's boundary. The sky turned an ominous green, rain lashing down in icy sheets. He slipped on mud-slicked grass, twisting his ankle with a sickening crunch. Hobbling and soaked to the bone, he took desperate shelter in the only nearby structure, a small, slightly dilapidated greenhouse overflowing with plants. He pushed the creaking door open. Mara was inside, hastily securing a loose pane of glass rattling in the wind. She whirled around, startled. "Mr. Thorne, what are you doing out here? You're soaked." "Twisted my ankle," Leo grimaced, leaning heavily against a sturdy potting bench. Rain drummed furiously on the glass roof. Saw the greenhouse. Her gaze flickered to his muddy, expensive hiking boot, then to his pained expression. Sighing, she pulled over a wooden stool. "Sit. Let me see." Her touch, as she gently probed his rapidly swelling ankle, was clinical yet surprisingly soothing. "Not broken, I think. Bad sprain. You shouldn't walk on it." "Perfect. How long is this storm supposed to last?" "Could be hours," she said, peering out at the downpour. "Looks like you're stuck with me and the tomatoes." She handed him a clean, slightly rough towel. "Dry off best you can. I'll make some willow bark tea. It'll help with the pain." As the storm raged outside, the greenhouse felt like a tiny, green cocoon. Steam rose from chipped mugs filled with bitter tea. Mara moved efficiently among the plants, checking seedlings, adjusting a small heater. Leo watched her, the silent stretching, filled only by the rain and the quiet rustle of leaves. He felt awkward, exposed. This wasn't a boardroom negotiation. Why? He blurted out, surprising himself. Why care so much about all this? He gestured vaguely at the plants, the village beyond the rain-streaked glass. Mara paused, wiping her hands on her jeans. She looked at him, really looked, those green eyes seeming to see right through his expensive shirt. "Because it's home. Mr. Thorne, it's real. These people, this land, it's life. You don't bulldoze life and build something shiny on top and expect the heart to still be there." Her words weren't accusing, just weary and knowing. She definitely knows the plan. Leo's throat tightened. She sees right through me. The carefully constructed facade of the conservation investor felt flimsy and cheap. He looked away, staring at his muddy boot. "Not everything in the city is fake, Mara." "I didn't say it was," she replied softly, handing him the mug. "But sometimes, chasing the big, shiny things makes you forget how to see the small, real ones. Like breathing." She turned back to her tomatoes. Leo sipped the tea, the warmth spreading through him. Outside, the storm unleashed its fury. Inside, with this practical, unsettlingly perceptive woman, Leo Thorne felt the first dangerous crack in his carefully controlled world. What am I really doing here? The question wasn't about the land deal anymore. Why does her quiet strength feel like the only solid ground? Act 2. Thorns among the flowers stuck in the greenhouse. They talked. Not about corporate takeovers, but about stubborn tomato plants that refused to fruit. Bert's uniquely terrible coffee, and the way the light hit the hills at dawn, painting them gold. Leo, for the first time in years, found himself talking about the pressure cooker intensity of his life. The constant noise, the relentless pace, the loneliness disguised as power. Mara spoke quietly about losing her parents young, finding solace and purpose in the garden, the village becoming her chosen family. He noticed a faint scar across her knuckle, rescued a kitten from a thorn bush. She'd explained with a shrug. She saw the deep-seated exhaustion beneath his polished surface. When the storm finally eased to a drizzle, Mara insisted on driving him to the tiny village clinic in her ancient, mud-splattered pickup truck. "Lean on me," she'd said firmly, her arms solid and sure under his. The simple touch, meant only for support, sent an unexpected jolt through him. When was the last time touch wasn't about power or negotiation, but just help? His sprained ankle meant staying in Willow Creek longer. He rented the only spare room above the Grumpy Badger. Slowly, awkwardly, he tentatively entered Mara's world. He offered clumsily to help in the community garden, earning chuckles from the kids as he fumbled with seeds. He endured Bert's continued suspicious glares. He accepted a slice of Mrs. Henderson's surprisingly spicy apple pie, and he watched Mara, the way sunlight caught strands of gold in her brown hair, the way she hummed tunelessly while she worked, the quiet concentration on her face as she nurtured life from the soil. He started noticing things he'd long ignored: the sharp, clean smell of rain hitting warm earth, the intricate, dew-jeweled geometry of a spiderweb, the profound quiet of the village at night, broken only by crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. Is this peace, or is it just being near her? One cool evening, helping Mara plant rows of late-season greens, his hand brushed against hers, cool, damp soil. They both froze. The air crackled, suddenly thick and electric. Her green eyes snapped up to meet his, wide, startled. He saw a flicker of something warm, something vulnerable, something scared. "Kiss her. Just lean in, Mr. Thorne." Old Mr. Miller's booming voice shattered the moment. Leo jerked back like he'd been scolded. Mr. Miller approached, holding a thick envelope, beaming. "Got those revised land survey reports you requested. Came through faster than expected, eh? Ready to move forward?" Mara went utterly still. The warmth in her eyes vanished, replaced by icy shock. She slowly straightened up, her gaze darting from the envelope in Mr. Miller's hand to Leo's suddenly pale face. "Land survey," she whispered, her voice dangerously quiet. "Revised reports for what exactly, Leo?" Her use of his first name felt like a knife. Leo's blood ran cold. "No, not like this, not now. Mara, I can explain what," Mr. Miller boomed, oblivious, clapping Leo on the shoulder. "That fancy resort complex, Thorn Capitals, planning, gonna put Willow Creek on the map. Mara, imagine the jobs, the boost for the town." He beamed, picturing prosperity. The color drained completely from Mara's face. She looked at Leo, not with anger first, but with utter, crushing betrayal. The fragile connection he'd felt, the dawning trust, shattered completely in her eyes. "A resort," she stated flatly, the word hanging heavy in the air. "That's your exploring, your conservation." She stood up, brushing soil from her hands with sharp, deliberate movements, as if brushing off his very presence. "You lied to me, to Mr. Miller, to everyone." Her voice trembled, not with tears, but with a fury born of deep hurt. "You were always just here to destroy it." She turned on her heel and walked away, back ramrod straight, head held high. Didn't look back. Not once. Leo stood rooted to the spot, Mr. Miller's cheerful chatter buzzing uselessly around him like an annoying insect. The scent of the freshly turned earth, once pleasant, now felt suffocating. He'd found something real, something precious he hadn't even known he was searching for, and he'd crushed it with his own ambition. What have I done? The multi-million-dollar deal suddenly felt like ashes in his mouth, but the raw ache in his chest wasn't about the deal. It was the look of absolute betrayal in Mara's eyes as she walked away. Could he ever fix this? Or had he lost the only real thing he'd found in years before he even truly understood its value? Bert slammed Leo's coffee down hard enough to make it slosh over the rim. Mrs. Henderson's famous pies stopped appearing at the counter when he walked in. Kids he'd awkwardly high-fived in the garden now avoided his gaze. The news had spread like wildfire. The rich city man was a wolf in a designer suit, here to devour their home. Mara, she became a ghost. He saw her working diligently in the garden, head down, shoulders set in a rigid line. She never glanced his way, her expression carefully blank. Leo holed up in his rented room, staring at the sleek Thorn Capital blueprints for the Willow Creek Haven Resort. The artist's renderings mocked him. Modern glass buildings, Mara's greenhouse stood, manicured lawns paved over the chaotic beauty of the community garden. The creek's gentle song drowned out by artificial waterfalls and piped music. This isn't building something new. This is erasing everything that matters. His phone buzzed relentlessly. Sarah, his impatient VP. Leo, what the hell is the holdup? Sign the damn papers. Miller's practically waving the pen. The board is breathing. Down my neck, the pressure was familiar, suffocating. But the image of Mara's betrayed face, pale and stricken, was stronger, clearer. He found Mr. Miller the next morning, repairing a section of weathered fence near the old oak grove. Sir Leo started, his voice rough from lack of sleep. About the resort. There are things you should know, things we downplayed. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to meet the old man's eyes. The environmental impact studies we rushed, the sheer volume of traffic it would bring, hundreds of cars daily on these quiet lanes, the noise pollution, the strain on the water table. He laid it all bare, the hidden costs, the polished corporate lies stripped away. It wouldn't be a haven, Mr. Miller. It would be the end of Willow Creek as you know it. The end of this. He gestured towards the ancient oaks, their branches sheltering generations of climbing kids. Mr. Miller listened silently, his weathered face growing grimmer by the second. Finally, he spat on the ground near Leo's polished now-scuffed shoe. Knew there was something rotten. Mara tried to warn me weeks ago, gentle-like. Said you seemed decent underneath the shine. He sighed heavily, looking out at his land, his gaze lingering on the massive oaks. My daddy planted these trees. Grandkids climb them. Their shade is worth more than any price. He thrust the thick envelope, the unsigned contract inside, back at Leo. Deal's off. Get your fancy papers. Out of my sight. Relief washed over Leo, sharp and clean, cutting through the fatigue. He'd torpedoed his career-making deal. His father's stern portrait back in the Manhattan office seemed to glare in disapproval. Failure, but a heavier, colder weight lifted from his shoulders. He'd done the right thing. Finally, now came the harder part. Facing Mara, he found her in the greenhouse, alone, repotting seedlings with fierce, almost angry concentration. She didn't look up as he approached, her movements deliberate. Mara, his voice cracked on her name. She stilled, slowly, deliberately. She wiped her hands on her jeans. Finally, she lifted her gaze to his. The fiery anger was gone, replaced by a deep, bone-weary sadness. Why, Leo? She asked quietly. Her voice held no accusation, only profound exhaustion. Because you got caught, or because you finally saw what you were about to destroy? Because I saw you, he said, the raw truth spilling out. I saw this place through your eyes. The kids, planting seeds with muddy hands. Mrs. Henderson's fierce kindness wrapped in pastry. Bert's terrible coffee that somehow tastes honest. The way the morning light hits the hills like it's painting them just for us. He took a step closer, needing her to understand. I saw what real life looks like, what I've been missing, what I was missing. He ran a hand through his hair, messy now, free of its usual controlling gel. I lied, I manipulated. I was exactly the city shark you thought I was. And I hate that version of myself. The deal is dead because I couldn't do it. Not after knowing you, not after knowing this. He gestured around the vibrant greenhouse. Her sanctuary. Silence hung heavy, thick with unspoken hurt and fragile possibility. Mara studied him, her green eyes searching his face, looking for the truth beneath the words. The deep sadness softened, just a fraction. A flicker of the woman who calmed his panic returned. "What now, Leo Thorne?" she asked quietly, almost gently. "You blew up your big deal. You're not exactly village material. Where does the mighty tycoon go?" Leo looked around the greenhouse, bursting with green life she'd coaxed from the earth. He looked at her, strong, rooted, real as the soil beneath. "Their feet. I don't know," he admitted, a small, tentative smile touching his lips. "The first genuine one in a long time. But I'd like to find out, if you'd let me try. Maybe start by actually learning how to plant something that doesn't die." A slow, hesitant smile bloomed on Mara's face, fragile as the first crocus pushing through snow. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. That would take time, sun, water. But it was a start. A fragile, hopeful seedling of a start. Small terracotta pot holding a single, determined green shoot. "All right, city boy," she said, her voice a little rough. "Lesson 1, this is basil. It needs sun, water, patience." She held the pot out to him, her eyes meeting his. "Lots and lots of patience. Think you can handle that?" Leo took the pot, his fingers brushing hers. A spark, warm and real, traveled up his arm. He looked at the tiny plant, then into her steady green eyes. "For the first time," he said, a quiet certainty settling in his chest, "I think I'm ready to learn." The road ahead wouldn't be smooth. Trust, once broken, takes careful tending. Leo had a life in New York pulling him back with invisible strings. Mara had roots sunk deep into Willow Creek soil. But as their hands touched on that small pot of basil, something new took root too. Not a guaranteed happy ending, but a chance. A choice planted in good earth. And sometimes, that's the most hopeful thing of all. The richest man in the room had finally learned the hardest lesson. The most valuable things in life aren't bought. They're grown, slowly, patiently, together.